it is definitely an Islay whiskey. It fits within that realm, well and truly. And
All right.
welcome back once again to McIntyre's Malts. My name is Wade, and today we are going to try another classic Islay whiskey, and that whiskey is the Caol Ila 12-year-old. So today we're going to dive into this one, and thank you to James Midson for making this video possible and providing me with the bottle of Caol Ila 12. So thank you, James. So on the bottle itself, it says lighter bodied than many Islay malts, yet with all their typical peatiness, and it will be an interesting contrast to some of the heavier and fuller peaty examples from Islay with the Caol Ila 12. So with that said, let's pour a dram and get into the nosing. Okay, so very much lighter color than some of the other Islay offerings. Very light, almost straw-like color. Not a lot of color at all on this one. So perhaps maybe it is natural color. The Caol Ila 12 is 43% ABV, so by no means high volume ABV. All right, let's get to the nosing. Instantly peatiness, right? The very first thing that draws my attention is the peat smell. More of a smokiness than an earthiness. Right now I'm getting similar notes to a Lagavulin 16, but with a bit more of a denser smokiness, a fuller kind of scent to it, rather than there's a touch more of the sweetness on the nose with a Lagavulin 16 with that sherry influence. There's the sweetness is in the back. It's not as forward facing. A lot of maltiness too. There's a really nice combination of malty tied in with the peat, and then a rich, dense smoke, very thick, almost think like heavy smoke clouds. Really nice smell. If you're a fan of that smoky type whiskey, it's very appealing smell. Very faint elements of the medicinal note that often appears in Islay whiskies, but very faint, very faint. Subtle sweetness, almost like a richer tropical fruit sweet. Not so much the dark red fruits that you would get from a sherry influence. More so almost like think those typical, like the bananas, the mangoes, the richer, fruitier sugar, but not so much. Like I'm not getting notes of mango, but to give you that idea of what I'm picking up on, that type of sweetness, the smell that's familiar. Really lovely smell. Okay, let's try on the palate and see what we get. Oh, different. It's right in that realm. Straight away, you know this is an Islay whiskey. Mouth-watering. On the palate, it's very much the maltiness and the sweetness that sort of is the initial flavor profile that presents itself, and then as you swallow the whiskey, you get this sense of the waft of that smokiness, that ashy. Now the medicinal note is coming through at the finish, at the back of my palate. A slight oiliness. Interesting. It's cool to contrast the Caol Ila 12 with the Laphroaigs, the Ardbegs, the Lagavulins, the Kilhomans, the Bruichladdich, all of these different offerings on Islay, that you know that they're Islay whiskies, but it's interesting to see their subtle nuances and takes and different profiles that come through in each distillery's offering. There's a it's a nice longer lengthy finish. It's really enjoyable, and you get the smokiness come through. As I say, after you swallow the whiskey, you get that smoke. Then there's that sort of sharpness that fades out very quickly, and you're really left with the linger of that medicinal, that iodine type note, and then on the sides of my tongue there's the gentle sweetness, almost like honey-like, but it's very much overpowered by the smoke, so it's underneath some of the more dominant flavor profiles, but it's there, and it's a nice sort of end to the whiskey experience on this one. So the Caol Ila 12 is generally in the range of $100 to $120 Australian. Okay, so let's try on the finish and see how the flavors change and develop now that they've been sitting for a little bit in my glass. Yeah, before we get to that, I always take that additional nosing as well. There's more of the smokiness has settled down a touch as the whiskey has opened up a little in the glass. Now it's definitely there. It's a nice contrast between the smoky, the maltiness, and a gentle sweetness. No medicinal note on the nose at all. Very much cereal notes as well. Okay, let's try on the finish. Very different. Much more softer and subtle on the finish. As I move the whiskey around my palate, just pure sweetness. It's much more sweet, and eases onto your palate at the finish. You get so much more of that, the maltiness and the honey-like notes, those sweetness, the sugary type, tropical fruit type sugars, the bananas, the mangoes, the cereal notes, the maltiness, and then there's this enjoyable sense that contrasts from the first sip on your palate. That's very has a sharpness and a sort of smokiness and a bit more intensity that sort of allows the sweetness to reveal itself, and then it follows through as you swallow the whiskey with the smokiness comes through at the end, and there's a nice coating on your tongue, Not as much of the medicinal note on the finish. The first sip presented more of the iodine notes on my palate. It has elements I can catch of that cinnamon note that I often find in something like the Lefroy Glor or perhaps Ardbeg Ugadal. Spice elements coming through at the end now. It's a lovely whiskey. Very nice. It fits beautifully within that realm of Islay whiskies. If you're a fan of, as I say, Lagavulin, Lefroy, Ardbeg, Bruichladdich, I'd be surprised if you didn't like the Caol Ila 12. It is definitely an Islay whiskey. It fits within that realm, well and truly. And I would most certainly buy a bottle of this again. It's wonderful. It's a lovely whiskey. If you can get it, and I'm sure you probably can because it's relatively easy to find. If you're a fan of Islay whiskies, you should grab a Caol Ila 12. It's a wonderful offering, and I definitely enjoy it. So thank you guys for watching. Slán Javar.